Harold has organised an interview. Okay, what we're going to do this morning is as you can see, we've got a range of ages up here, people from different decades. You can have a guess as to which sort of decade they're in. So what we were asked, what I sent around a couple of weeks ago, last week, it wasn't very long ago, but it was just a little script to work through. So what we're going to ask the people to talk about is, you know who they are, where they're from, how long they've been in local government, what they think are fit for the future and what it means for local government in the coming years, what fit for the future means to them in their career as a finance professional. So, volunteers, who wants to kick us off? Sam's up first.
Morning, everyone. Okay, a little bit about me first. Sounds like a bit of a cliche, but I literally fell into local government. I had no idea what I was going to do after year 12, and thankfully enough, a training admin position came up at the Gloucester Council, and I actually got the job the day I got my HSC results. So I thought, oh, that's good. Got mum off my back for not, laying on the couch and what have you. But yeah, so I stayed at Gloucester for 8.5 years, and I worked my way up from the trainee admin assistant to the financial accounting officer and team leader, so that was good. Then September 2013, I literally packed up and left and went out west to Narrabri. I had no idea what I was in for. I saw the job advertised on the Thursday in the little job directory thing, and it closed on the Friday, so I thought, oh, well, you've got to be in it to win it. So put in for it, and here I am now. So basically I look after the operational side of the finance team. I do the investments, GST, FBT, and look, anything the finance manager doesn't want to do, basically. So basically, looking in 10 years, I've gone from training admin assistant to now to I see the finance department, where I maintain and look after a $40 million budget. So quite happy with where I am this year. The first couple of years of my career were very slow, and now it's kind of taken off. So all good thus far. Fit for the future. Well, I don't know. It's such. I just hope that if there is a change in the government, that it doesn't actually change the way that we approach Fit for the Future. It's such a good framework in the sense that it's making us look forward and thinking about, 10 years down the track, where do we actually want to be, not just, let's just get this budget over and done with and hope that we end up with a surplus. It's actually getting us to think, well, if we do actually, or if council agree to fund this project, what do we then have to give up? So I do like that framework. I have noticed a bit of a disconnect, though, in regards to, say, your managerial levels, so basically from your supervisor, manager, director, and the GM. We're all running around doing all this IPNR, framework, everything like that, but it's literally the operational staff that I have found that don't understand what we're trying to achieve. When I first started at Narrabri, there's eight staff that I look after. None of them knew what IPNR stood for. None of them had read the delivery program or the operational plan. So they had no idea what we were running around trying to achieve, as opposed to what they were actually doing on a day-to-day basis. They just thought, well, I do the creditors run and then I go home. But, not thinking about the procurement side of things or anything like that. So I hope that we can, through this framework, and just try and bridge the gap, I guess, between the operational staff and the strategic staff. for me as a finance professional, I don't know, I just think that Fit for the Future for me means continual self-development. You know, no one likes admitting when someone comes to you in the office, you know, even about GST, FBT or what have you, you don't like admitting that you don't know, but I would rather take the time and say, hey, can I have 5 minutes to actually investigate this, rather than giving someone the wrong interpretation of the Act or something like that, and then go and make budget decisions based on my incorrect advice. And I also think that member networking like these functions actually help too, because if you meet someone here, you're actually more inclined then to pick up the phone and say, hey, poor Cheryl from Tamworth, I bombard her all the time. and you do, you say, hey, you know, hey Cheryl, what's your interpretation of this? And now that you've actually met that person, you're more inclined to actually bounce ideas off them, rather than just, you know, trying to navigate the ATO website or something like that. Oh, good, thanks.
He's got the other microphone in his hand, isn't he? Tell us all about it, mate.
Hi, I'm Craig. I've been alcohol-free for probably... No, I wasn't being, sorry. Hi, I'm Craig from Blacktown. I've been at Blacktown for the last 10 years as a senior financial accountant. So I deal with financial statements, long-term financial plan, investments and management reporting. I've been in the industry for 25 years, so guess what decade, I guess, that I started. I started as a trainee, very similar to the talk just then. I started at Ku-ring-gai Council actually, as an accounts trainee, so it was a great career opportunity to start to learn, you know, creditors, debtors, all the very basics, and also study part-time. And I've been to probably 4 or 5 councils in Sydney since then, so I've been able to progress my career, and I think local government's very good for that. Just briefly, what I think Fit for the Future means for Blacktown and also maybe for the industry. Blacktown, for those of you that don't know, is a Western Sydney council, population of 300,000, projected to be 500,000 in 25 years' time. So we're a growth council. Under this Fit for the Future, we're earmarked to stay as we are, so no change. However, when you look at the index, the sustainability indexes that they're put together, we're not going to meet any of those in the middle or short term. I think that's an issue with the indexes that they've put up. For example, our own source revenue, we're not going to meet that due to the fact that we take a lot of in-kind contributions and things like that. So we're not going to meet those benchmarks. I think that's an issue. If we're forced to do that, we could be forced to do something that's really not in the best interest of the community and or really for our sustainability moving forward. Hopefully I'm wrong, but from what I'm hearing, they're talking a lot about amalgamations moving forward for the industry. I hope I'm wrong on that. I think the IPNR is a really good framework that's been set up, which allows councils to start to really engage with our communities and see what really the community wants and what they're prepared to sacrifice and or pay for. And I know that we at Blacktown have got a special rate variation to deal with our infrastructure backlog, and I think a lot of councils have, and I think that's probably a good framework. So I'm hoping amalgamations is not rushed into. I guess, yeah, I'm really passionate about this industry, and I hope that I can, still see a career path in this industry. Yep, that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Looks like Lindy's up next.
Okay, hi everybody, I'm Lindy from Greater Hume. This year marks my 30 years in local government, so for me I moved to Holbrook as a young mother, with absolutely no inclination what I wanted to do. I was fortunate enough to get a job at the former Holbrook Council, and I stayed there for probably 9 years. I was one back prior to maternity leave and job share and part-time work before they became normality. So for me, I actually had to leave when I had a young family. I recommenced back in 1985, so this year is also 20 years of my continual back in local government. So I've been within that area in, as I said, for the whole 30 years, working for the two councils 29 kilometres apart from each other. I've enjoyed my time in the country. I've really embraced my community. I've also been in the local SES for the last 25 years and controller for the last 5 years. So I've really just, probably the last 5 years, taken on my job as a career, because who knows what's going to happen in the next few years for us. We're a small rural council who were one of the last ones to amalgamate in 2004, and I think we've come a long way in those 11 years. I only hope that we get to be still where we are in the next few years so that we can get a chance to grow. It's a very confronting time for us. We just don't know what's going to happen, and it does affect staff, it does affect morale, and it does affect performance. But it's been a good opening challenge for us to really look at our processes, look at the way we do things, the services we provide, and we have reviewed some of our services. I'd like to remain as local as we can. We have a lot of ageing population, so we do have to look after our communities that really support us as well. Now, sort of having in the role that I am now, I'm sort of more involved with the financial reporting, the budgeting, and lately I've been more embracing the engineering section to assist them manage their budgets and their roads and their spending. They don't seem to think that there is a budget or a bottom line, so I do have many challenging days with the engineering, but my life is never dull at the moment. What else can I say? I guess the whole government approach now is essential to move forward, and in the words of Avril Henry, don't let our fears and perceived limitations sabotage our ability to move forward, and that is so true. And also, another one from Robin Sharma, to lay claim to greatness, stop being a prisoner of our past and become an architect of our future. We can relate this to local government and the change process that's currently underway. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm Caroline Foley from Randwick Council. I've been in local government for almost 15 years, since the Olympics here in Sydney. I started off, after I left uni, I joined a helicopter company out at Sydney Airport, and they ended up winning a contract to provide the police rescue service down in Tasmania. So they packed up and they moved down, and I followed them down and realised that really Hobart wasn't the place for a 21-year-old at the time. David Bartlett obviously wasn't Premier yet. So I headed back up, and I was living in Randwick at the time. There was a job in the local paper for Randwick Council. I thought, well, that's a good pit stop, and I'll find something more exciting, in a year's time. And I'm still there, because it is really, local government is such an interesting industry to work in. Where else would you work alongside landscapers and engineers and someone who's designing the playground over there, childcare centre workers, libraries, lifeguards. It's a really interesting industry to be in, but I was still young and had itchy feet, so I was given 12 months off to go travelling. Thanks, Brian Gregan, if you're out there, for the lead. And while I was working, I stopped off in London for a bit of extra cash. I went to a temp agency, and he said to me, the temp agency recruiter, if I had two resumes in front of me, yours and somebody else's, and you had local government experience, and the other person who had private industry experience, I would always choose the other person. But that stinks. that perception of local government is awful. And since then, I've just been out there trying to convince people that local government is a great place to work, trying to change people's perception is really important of local government, and there's plenty of articles in the paper. There's one today trying to say that local government is a terrible organisation or terrible industry, and Fit for the Future is all about changing not only what councils, how councils perform, but also how they're perceived as well. For Randwick Council, Fit for the Future for us means a potential merger. The recommendation is to merge with 4 other councils, including the City of Sydney. So we could become a council servicing a population of 500,000 people. So certainly for Randwick, Fit for the Future is going to be an interesting and exciting time with a lot of change, a lot of rocket fuel change perhaps. In the short term, I think for us it's going to mean the dynamics for the finance department are definitely going to be challenging. There'll be, many systems moving into one, much bigger teams, new budgets, fees and charges to sort out, lots of financial planning to do, and of course the obvious question of doubling up of some roles and motivating staff. But I think in the long term, there's a lot of opportunities for finance professionals to get into more strategic roles. I myself have graduated from the basement level where they stick us finance people up to the first floor. So working under the GM on a few different projects. I think that at the end of the day, local government will be somewhere where we're all stronger and more empowered. We'll have bigger brains from all that thinking and all those challenges. But I think this is going to be really interesting and a really good process for us. Thank you.
And just before we finish off, I'd just like to do a plug for the Local Government Mentoring Program. I actually participated in that program in 2012, and that sort of gave me more of a launching pad to where I am now. So thanks, Annalise, for that program. It's been a great learning curve. The finance course was even a more terrific course for us, because being in our council, there's not the scope to learn from past people. You only come in to learn what you've been told to learn, and there's not a lot of innovation or a lot of change. So now we can sort of put new ideas out there. We've got a greater networking opportunity, so embrace those courses that are there. That's what they're there for us, to learn and to grow, so we can be a bit more informed and better prepared for the future. So thanks.
Does anyone have any questions, comments, or want to add to anything that the people on the panel have said? What are your thoughts on how it's going to affect you? Do you think that what's been said this morning is something that's relevant to you in your council? No one's got anything to... Annalise has got it. Just before Annalise starts, listening to these 4 people this morning, how good's the future of local government finance? And really, you sort of sit back and go, wow.
One of the things in the survey that we did, asked about the more strategic role of finance, and there are a couple of areas in local government that have sort of strategic parts and strongly operational parts, and another one might be, in the whole IT area, in terms of having a strategic IT enablement strategy and, underpinning technology as an enabler. Well, finance is kind of in the same boat, where if you have a strong and healthy and skilled finance function, it's a critical component at a strategic level, and obviously then you've got all the functional processes that just have to happen, and you have to make sure that you're strongly supported by systems and people and management and all of that stuff. So what do you see as the pressures around those two elements, being strategic and then being the operational side? Because it appears from the data that you're dragged into operations a lot. I think the HR function suffers the same fate as well. They're quite operational, a lot of the HR people, and they're trying to get more strategic, but they keep getting dragged into stuff they have to sort out every day. So we always hear it's, I don't have resources, capacity. Is that really real, or are we actually, have we not really looked at how we're working and what we're spending our time on? Because that's what is coming out of the data at the moment. Anyway.
Might just start. I think a lot of it is to do with the systems that we have currently, because a lot of the systems that we're using are fairly old and they don't really match up and they can't really work with the digital space that we're moving into. We're finding it will be that there's a lot of things that we want to do that we really need to do, but the systems that we are using are limited. We want to have. If anyone was at the Susan Law talk yesterday, she talked about a target operating model. We have customer first, digital first, and then processing. So what we find is, you can have customer first, but you can't really move into the digital first, where people can actually self-serve any time of the day, whatever day of the week they want to, without those systems to back them up. Currently, they aren't available.
We have a similar issue. We've got two councils. We have two offices. Our corporate services in one town, engineering and planning is in another town 30 kilometres away. For us to go and talk with the engineers, we actually have to take an hour out of our day to get over there. And it's not the best situation. We have reasonably good internet, but it could be better. We're starting to get out to the mobile computing now. So there are technologies that we are embracing, trying to move forward, but we're getting there slowly.
Look, at the moment for Blacktown, we're just going through a new conversion to a new system. Technology is certainly definitely an issue. Trying to get a lot of information out of our current system is very clunky. Look, we are obviously a little bit larger and have strategic departments and things like that, but we still are fairly stretched at this point in time. So yeah, technology is an issue that we need to streamline.
Carol, Ram's got a fairly swish system, haven't they?
Of course. We have put in quite a lot of technology in recent years. We're using mobile tablets out in the workforce for a lot of the outdoor workers now, and that's feeding through other systems in council. There's certainly a lot of money that's required and time to get these systems going, and perhaps that is an argument for scale. The larger the council you are, the more capable, the more time people are going to have, and more money, hopefully, to invest into better technology so we can kind of shake up some of this not really value-adding activities that we're doing and move into more exciting type projects than what we currently perhaps have to focus on.
So we've just had a major restructure and we've done exactly that. We've split out our strategy and our operations. So I'm the finance coordinator for strategy. There's also one for operations. We've split out our HR in the same way. In our workforce planning is in the strategy. Our workforce operations, as in our recruitment, is in our operations. So we've made that clear split. So within the strategy is all the business partnering, the continuous improvement in what everyone's doing, that long-term financial plan, the investment sort of management, not just the day-to-day management, but that long-term investment and debt management. So the investment procedures are split between your day-to-day as far as your long-term as well. So that's it. Yeah. Well, it's just in the throes of being split. At the moment, I'm still looking after the financial statements because they're recruiting at the moment for that coordinator role. So, but yeah, that's exactly that plan. Having accountants that don't just switch between budget and BASs and FPT and statements, but they're clearly just working on that continuous improvement, getting to know the businesses really, really well, and not being bogged down in that operations. And we're utilising our operations staff that say do rates and accounts payable, that sort of thing, to help in those peak times to do some of your, your year-end journals and things like that, that you don't need an accountant to process a journal sort of thing. So
will that strategy group be doing all the IPR?
that's right, yep, they'll be doing all the IPR as well. And involved in that is the communications, because we sort of see that as a strategic role as well. And also that corporate planning is coming in, sort of in that as well. So it's a very different approach. So now I've got 8 accountants that have to make a decision as to where they see themselves, whereas before they've done a bit of everything. So it's really quite different.
So striking the difference. Gosford, 8 accountants. I heard a chuckle from over here. So when you talk about strategy and operations, Lindy's, when you turn around, change it out. So the scale of, the scale stuff does come into it, but one of the things that they really stark is that Blacktown, biggest council in New South Wales, doesn't meet any of those criteria. Whereas, when we just back in the last year, on scale capacity, I use the example of Lane Cove, who said at that stage that they met all the criteria. So one of the smallest versus one of the biggest. The smallest one did, the biggest one doesn't. So scale capacity's got a bit of fuzziness about it, I think. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, we were talking, Chris Carroll from Landshire Council out of West Wylam. We talked about engineers and working in cooperation with them. I think Fit for the Future has probably had a greater influence on the finance departments dealing more with engineers and other departments of council. So there is an issue with a cultural change, I guess, with the engineers, that there is not an endless bucket of money for the works that they want to do. But to be fair to the engineers, that they are heavily influenced by councillors and councillor demands. Now, I don't know what other councils are like, but usually when a councillor approaches the engineers and says that road needs doing, it's not a question of go out and have a look at it. I want you to go out and do it. Are there many other councils experiencing the same thing, that our Fit for the Future, whilst we're all driving towards that we're getting hampered by councillors as well as engineers? Any other comments on that?
I think perhaps a bit of training with the councillors might be in order as well. They need to understand that we need to take a program and disciplined approach to the way we do our asset management planning and our financial planning. At Randwick, we hold a lot of workshops with the councillors, and these days are very good. They understand the plans that the council has in place, and that particular road will be somewhere in that plan. I'm sure that there still are a few requests that come through, but from my experience, from where we were to where we are today, there's certainly a lot less of that reactive type of work that's being done. There's no budget called councillor requests or anything like that anymore.
The whole budget, isn't it?
So, a bit of training with councillors, is especially in financial planning, I think is a really good way for us to maybe address some of those issues.
Yeah, probably from our experience, obviously the implementation of this IPR and starting down that process has started to change that around. We still have a little bit of reactive, but certainly with the asset management plans, the councillors are very focused on our special Schedule 7 figure and getting that figured out. So they are now really, since the last few years, they're really focused on sort of asset management, and we've got our asset management plans and going through those plans and making sure that we start to work into that backlog. I'm sure there's still reactive work that does go on, but it's a lot more planned now.
Absolutely agree with both of you. I think the education of councillors has to be paramount in the entire everything fit for the future. We seem to have councillors that just aren't understanding, in my opinion, what their roles are. I don't believe, and I'm pretty sure it's even in the Code of Conduct, that councillors shouldn't be approaching staff to say that they want this road graded or they want this footpath fixed. If they see that themselves, get them to call up like any other ratepayer and lodge a service request. We at Narrabri seem to be carrying over nearly, out of a $20 million capex program each year, we carry over nearly $8 million of that, purely because our councillors keep changing their mind about what they want done. And, it's just not, the program itself isn't even achievable in the first instance. A $10 million capital program for our council is ideal, not just to carry that over every year. But also I think the councillors need to, again with education, realise that just because a ratepayer comes to them saying, oh, my road needs grading or the curb and guttering outside of my place needs doing, I think it's a great idea if we were to give the councillors almost like business cards that say, all right, when someone comes up to them, say, here's a business card, here's how you, as the ratepayer, need to lodge that with the council's works department or something to that effect, not actually, raise it with the councillor so they are aware of it so they can put it in the strategy. But I don't think they should be getting involved at that level and continually changing the goalposts for our engineers who already have project management blowout skills. Yeah.
A lot of those issues come down to how your GM works with the council and what steps they put in place as to, giving the councillors the rules of engagement with the staff. And that's what it really comes down to. But certainly, we all got to realise that the councillors are there to get re-elected next time, pretty much. They might get in on the first time and have all good intentions, but after that, I think it's pretty much how I'm going to get re-elected. If rolling the squeaky wheel does it, then that's pretty much what I'll do.
I just think it's important that the community consultation process really is thorough, so that the councillors become aware of what the community wants, what the community can afford, and what the priorities are for the council. So having sort of participated in a few workshops, Dee and myself, like with the councillors setting up the management plan for the next year, and it's quite interesting to listen to some of our councillors' views and thoughts and understanding where they fit in the picture, but also understanding what processes we're trying to put in place with our asset management plans and our works programs. So getting them educated isn't easy, but I'm sure it is an essential part of moving forward.
And if you want to discuss with someone who's passionate about councillors and their qualifications and experience and really their, how qualified they are to be a councillor, ask Annalisa that question. And get ready for a barrage. Anyway, we're just about out of time, so I hope you've enjoyed this session. Thank Carolyn, Craig, Sam and Lindy for us.